Oh my! He's on fire!
All right, everyone. How's everyone doing? Happy Thursday. It is July 9th. You guys like that new intro, by the way? Reyan will be able to tell you here in a second. I finished that up, I think, 3 minutes before the stream started tonight. So, that's how we do things here with this big budget from the Cleveland Gaming Classic. So this is Tom Jenkins. Good to see you all. Thanks for joining us for another Facebook live stream during our quarantine here during COVID. Again, I hope everyone's staying safe and healthy. It's good to talk to you guys. Thanks for joining. As always, super excited to be here. I'm going to adjust the camera real quick. But yeah, super excited about our interview tonight. We are going to have Reyan Ali. He is the author of the NBA Jam, the book, published by Boss Fight Books. So they put out a whole series of video game books, and Reyan published a book, NBA Jam, with them, I believe, in 2019. So funny story is I actually had a chance to first connect with Reyan. Honestly, I think it's becoming more of a habit here. It's kind of stalking people on Twitter, unfortunately. So I apologize, Reyan, in advance before I bring you on, but you guys kind of know how that works. But he was at our show last year in November, which was awesome. Tim Kitzrow was there too, which was just super cool. And Reyan was able to do a panel with him as well, which is fun. So, but he's a little bit about him before he gets on. I got to build him up a little bit, hype him up. So he's worked at Wired, published for Wired, Spin, The Atlantic, AV Club, and weekly papers all across the country. So he is here to share with us everything there is to know about NBA Jam. So if you have questions for Reyan as we're doing this interview, as always, feel free to pump those in. Also, too, before I bring him on, I'm going to do a plug on his behalf. So it's not even a shameless plug that he's doing, but I'll do one. But you can order his book right now on Amazon Prime. Actually, I just ordered mine. So you should know I just ordered mine. I picked it up for $13. So stop being so cheap. Pick it up, $13. Solid read. I think it's close to 200 pages. So yeah, get ready for learning everything you need to know about NBA Jam in this interview. And then I'm hoping we don't spoil too much, with Reyan today. We're going to keep things light, keep things fun as always. But before I bring him on too, last thing, housekeeping. Give you a quick update on our show in November. As you guys might know, if you're in the Cleveland area, Cuyahoga County has been going through a little bit of a spike due to COVID-19. So there's the governor actually of Ohio just instituted a county-wide mask policy. So we are doing everything we can to make sure our show is going to be safe, and we're doing the right thing as, obviously cases and numbers rise nationwide. That being said, I don't have anything to announce yet as far as the show. We're still working through everything, but we will keep you up to date. And as always, for the latest and greatest on what we're doing with the Cleveland Gaming Classic, you can check us out either on our website at gamecleveland.com or on our Facebook page. So speaking of bringing on some good content here, I'm going to bring on Reyan. Let me see. I'm going to bring you on 3, 2, 1. Here we go. There you go.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, man, how's it going?
It's going pretty well. All things considered, I spend most of my days in this basement that you see right behind me over here. I work from here. I hang out here. It's very strange. I miss Dave & Buster's, man. Sounds weird, but I really want to go back to Dave & Buster's.
Yeah. And I'm a huge Dave & Buster's fan. Actually, I asked my wife, hey, because they did open. I asked her, hey, can I take my 5-year-old? And she said no. So I'm still not allowed to go to Dave & Buster's.
I didn't even know it was open yet.
It's open. Yeah, they are open, which I think is a little wild, but I imagine, I know they're not like a local business, but still, there are people that need jobs and to go out and support them. So, and I just love Dave & Buster's too.
Plus like the giant Pac-Man machines, the giant,
well, and you guys had one of the first ones down in the Columbus area too, right? You got at least in Ohio, I think, right?
Did we really? I did not know that. There's actually one right near me, but I didn't know we had one of the first.
Yeah, you guys were like one of the first ones in Ohio. So, Reyan, thanks for joining us. Like I just gave away, spoiler alert, Reyan is from Columbus, Ohio, or should I call it Flavortown? Have you guys renamed Columbus yet? Or
Not yet. Working on it. When
You're working on it.
when Mayor Fieri takes over, yeah, when Mayor Fieri takes over, this will definitely be Flavor Town.
I saw the Flavor Town stuff spinning around. I was kind of excited about that. I think it's do you have any other names
Someday.
you want to throw out there for Columbus?
How about so did you know that Macho Man Randy Savage was born in Columbus?
I did not. I know the Arnold
So how
Classic.
about this?
I know the Arnold Classic and Wendy's is down
There
in
is.
Columbus.
There is, but Macho Man Randy Savage was born here. So just now, through our conversation, I'm inspired to say we should call this place the Savage Land. Like,
Dude,
I mean, come on, right? It's right there. It's right there.
love
Tribute to Macho Man. Yeah,
I
not everybody
love it.
knows that Macho Man was born in Columbus.
You can have bumper stickers that say like, "Oh yeah, dig it, the Savage Land." You know, I like it.
Oh my gosh, that's great. Yeah, absolutely. Or Lil Bow Wow was born here also, I believe. He's not from, like, he doesn't live here, but he was, yeah. So it's a little between Lil Bow Wow and Jack Garrett. Yeah, he's just Bow Wow. You're right. Yeah, I'm stuck in like 2005.
Dude, he's grown up now. He's just Bow Wow. So
he's just Bow Wow. Yeah. Soon he'll just be Wow. Yeah. Can't wait to.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh man, so super pumped. Thanks for joining us for this. This is great. Like I said, you and I had a chance to catch up. I think right, it was wild, right? I mean, your book had just came out. I think what was it, October 2019? Like it was just getting a physical release right before our show last year.
Yes, yeah. It was actually, your show was its debut. That was the first. It was within, like, I think it was 5 days after the book came out. So I had just gotten my first box of books right in the nick of time, which was awesome because I was really worried. I really wanted to do. I was like, got to get the books. I hope they come in. And then thankfully they came in, I think 5 days before, and I was so ecstatic. So yeah, your show was the first time that I did anything with the book, and it was super exciting. That was when it felt real for the first time, because I mean, I've been working on it for 4 years, but when to actually have people to talk about it and be like, here's the thing, here's an object, hold it in your hand.
And Tim Kitzrow there was like autographing copies.
Oh yeah, Tim was awesome. I had a great time with Tim. In fact, I think, yeah, you might have been part of that when his booth moved across from mine.
Right. Yeah, he wanted to move his booth. Because I had him like down the hallway. He's like, listen,
right, yeah,
I gotta be near Reyan here. Like, let's get things straight.
I appreciated that. No, it was a great day. I spent a lot of time with Tim, and afterwards, actually, my buddy Derek was there. He was my number 2 that day, alongside me. And so Derek, myself, and Tim Kitzrow all went to have Mexican food right after the show, and it was a great night. We did, yeah.
Do you guys know where you went? Do you remember? I'd be curious. You probably went to Nueva Acapulco is my guess. I think it's the closest. Either that or Chipotle or something.
It wasn't a Chipotle. It was at the end of a strip mall.
It's got to be. It's either
but
that.
I was
like or Don Ramon's. Those are the 2 spots in the area that people would go to.
Don Ramon's. It was Don Ramon's.
Don Ramon's. It's the spot in Westlake. That's the spot. We almost did carry out from.
Yeah, so I was. That place was fantastic, and I felt very fortunate to be able to buy Tim his Mexican dinner, which was pretty light. He's that's how he stays in such good shape, man. He looks great. He's a
slender guy. He's a fit dude. Yeah, he looks good, man.
Slender guy taking care of himself, though. Yeah,
I guess. It was ages. Yeah, he looks.
Yeah,
great.
Tim looks awesome. Yeah, Tim looks like it's still 1993. Yeah,
yeah, it's a joke. Yeah, he's got hair. I don't have any hair left.
He looks great. Yeah. But no, it was such a blast, man. I had such a good time at the show. It was awesome. I got to meet some people, see that NBA Jam tournament, do that panel with Tim, and really start to feel it for the first time. So no, that was definitely a turning point for me in terms of it feeling like real, in terms of engaging with strangers about it, which was very cool.
Which is cool, like at a show. So I have to kind of ask you, get some of the backstory here, kind of start a little bit from the beginning, but I'd be curious to hear, like, NBA Jam book, like, how did this happen? Where did this start?
So it started back in 2015 when I was very bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, thinking that I was going to write a book in a relatively short period of time. But yeah, going back over there, so I was a music journalist for many years. So like you mentioned, I worked for Wired. I did work for Rolling Stone too, Complex, tons of places. I did a lot of stuff. Lots of musician interviews over the years, like literally hundreds, if not thousands.
Oh, wow.
So I started even before I graduated college. I think it was a semester before I graduated college, which was back in 2008. So since 2008 until 2015, I'd been doing my freelance writing that whole time, but I also really wanted to write a book. So I pitched a couple of different music books. I think they were a while before 2015, but I pitched a couple. of them, and neither went over. Both of them got rejected by the publisher. I'm so proud of that. Finding a way to slip in reject.
You got to do that. That's
Yeah.
like when you talk to Kitster, like everything's an NBA Jam reference when you talk.
It's all NBA Jam reference.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they were rejected. But I was like, I still got to write that book. So in 2015, I found out that Boss Fight Books had an open call for pitches. So Boss Fight, like you mentioned, they're a publisher. They do different books about different video games. So let's say they'll do one book about Galaga by one author, another book about Super Mario Bros. 2 by a separate author, a third one about Super Mario Bros. 3 by another author entirely. So they had an open call for pitches back in 2015. And I was like, oh, this is the opportunity. I really want to do it. And keep in mind, I'd been doing music writing at this point. I was like, I have a passion for video games, but I haven't really written about video games much before, aside from a few articles. But I know I really want to do it. So when I had this idea that like, okay, this is going to be the opportunity. Those first two books didn't work out. How about this one? So I really racked my brain. I was like, what's a subject that's worth writing about? And what's a subject worth reading about? Like, what would people really care to learn about that they might not know has an amazing story? And I was like, oh, NBA Jam. I mean, it just seemed so obvious, like the second I thought of it, which was pretty fast, actually. I was a huge Midway fan as a kid, a huge Midway fan. So I already knew the world of Midway very well. And the idea of committing myself to a book, to like feasibly spending years writing about NBA Jam and talking to people Midway, like the fanboy in me was just going nuts. It's like, oh my God, what if I get this book? Like I can talk to Mark Turmel and I can talk to all these folks, catch up with Sal DeVita, the Mortal Kombat guy.
I'd be freaking out too. Like, how are you actually going to do? How are you going to do your research? It's not like, oh, hang on, let me just like hit up Mark Turmel and be like, hey, dude, you got a minute?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So it was one of those things where I had this big vision of like, I'm going to do this. I really want to make this NBA Jam book happen. So I pitched Boss Fight, and I pitched them probably. So I can't say officially because I don't work for Boss Fight. Yeah. But I would guess is probably one of the longest pitches they've ever gotten, if not the longest pitch. So most of them that they've received, I'm guessing, are probably 8 or 10 or so.
You do like via Zoom or something, or was this in person, or like I'm kind of curious to know what this pitch was like. It's a phone call.
Yeah, it was a written pitch. It was all a written pitch. No, it was all a written pitch. So I put it all into So I ended up writing 37 pages. Whoa. So I basically wrote the book. Yeah, for the pitch itself. Like I went in deep. I had like chapter ideas. I knew what the cover was going to be. I always knew the cover was going to be an actual basketball lit on fire, which is what ended up happening. I had this.
Listen, guys, I got the cover. That's all you need to know.
Yes.
I've got the basketball. It's on fire. Great.
That's good enough. Yeah, that's a pretty good selling point. So I pitched them back in 2015, and then they said yes, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing! I cannot wait. I was so psyched. I was so happy, and I was like, yeah, a year, 2 years tops, I'll be all done, no problem. And then, of course, lo and behold, life happens, and then 2015 or 2017, my goal at one time turns to 2018, and then finally came out in 2019. So it was 4 years of lots of writing, lots of research. Just to give you an idea of the amount of research I did 68 interviews, 68 for a relatively small book. Yeah, I've got a copy of it over here somewhere. So just to give you an idea, like
about a 200-page book, right?
Yeah. So it is. So including all the like the end acknowledgments and everything, it's probably around 250. Yeah. So it's just about 250. So even then though, like I knew I really wanted to go into
interviews. I mean,
it was a lot. It was one of those things where I thought, I could stop at any point. I've got 20 interviews. I've got 30 interviews. I've got 40 interviews. But I knew that I really wanted this to be special. Like I wanted this to be so encompassing that you can say, I read this book about NBA Jam, and I know this one aspect of NBA Jam, and this book shed more light on that one aspect. Yeah. As in, if you're a fan of the 90s NBA, you learn something. If you're a fan of the video game side, you learn something. If you're an arcade fan, you learn something. So it was 68 interviews over 4 years, lots and lots of hours, but it finally came out October 22nd, 2019. What a great day.
I say you're like, finally. Well, that honestly, like, I had this as a question later, but I'm going to ask it now because I feel like, whether it's you talk about Midway and or NBA Jam at the same time, I mean, like there is some, I would think like as an author, there's some obligation to kind of, and the bar is so high in terms of what people expect and think and know that it's like, you have to get it right. Like you have to do 68 interviews, I have to mention, because there's so many stories to tell, so many people to talk to, And I'm not, like, I'm not sure it's ever been kind of told like that. So yeah, I imagine this insane amount of pressure to get all that.
It was a lot of pressure. Yeah, it was a lot of pressure. It was all nights, weekends, mornings, doing interviews. What I do was I would, like, let's say I did an interview with DJ Jazzy Jeff one morning. This was back in 2016, I think. I did it at 9:30 in the morning.
You did a DJ Jazzy?
I did. Yeah. Yeah. He was super cool. He was a very cool guy.
Get out of here.
No, I did. Check it out. It is on page. If I was brilliant enough, I'd be able to tell you the page right offhand. But it's page
recorded too, probably somewhere. You've got a external hard drive.
Yep. I have it over here somewhere. Awesome. Yeah.
Awesome.
So it is somewhere around page 127, give or take. Yeah. But yeah, no, I did talk to him, and I remember I slipped away from work at 9:30 in the morning. I went down to my car. It was super hot in there. Of course, you don't want to turn on the car for you don't want the sound of the air conditioning in the background of the recording. So I was just sitting there burning up, talking to DJ Jazzy Jeff at 9:30 on a Wednesday or Thursday morning. But it was great. I mean, that was really what the journey was like. It was lots of, okay, I'm going to get this person, then I got to do anything I can to make it happen. So I remember I talked to Kenneth Fareed, who plays in the league, and he was on the Nuggets at that time. And I remember doing that Nuggets interview, or the interview with him. Probably it was at 11:30 in the morning. I had to go slip someplace else at work. I was in a huddle room someplace. It was really like, it was very
my wife's calling me, or my girlfriend's calling. I gotta
exactly. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You have to ask me the story about talking to Shaq later on too, ones for a lot of reasons. But yeah, the bar was so high. I knew that.
The chat here. He's got a question for you. Rommel, does the book tell me why Pippen dropped stats? Come on, people know this, right? Wasn't that a Turmel code that he put in there? Was that a Mark Turmel thing?
It is, yeah. But the book does confirm that, and the book also really gets more into his love for the Pistons, like before and then a little bit after that too, I think.
He's born in Michigan, right? I think he was born in Michigan, right? And then he later moved to Chicago, right? So
yeah. And true blue Michigan native, one of those things where he had that deep loyalty. So just to give you an idea of how much Turmel loved Michigan. So he was in Chicago in the late 80s, back when Midway was working on it was actually probably the early version of Williams Valley Midway. Mm-hmm. Back when they had put out just Smash TV, Total Carnage, whatnot. But back then, that's when the Pistons were at the top of the league and the Bulls were still just behind them. So what Turmel would do as a big Detroit Pistons fan in an office full of Bulls fans is that he would walk around the office and chant "Bad Boys" at them, and these guys would just hate him. And these guys were big homers for the people they loved. They really loved, And it was so cool that was another element to it too. It wasn't just the passion for video games; it was the passion for basketball.
Another question here. Thanks for the questions, guys. Keep them coming. Kevin Molnar, great to see you, man. As always, love Kevin. Any interviews out of the bunch that stood out to you? Out of the 68 that you can remember, that you got way more out of than you thought, maybe.
Man, that's a great question. I've not been asked that in all my time talking about the book. Interviews that really stuck out to me.
You got some bright talent here on the Cleveland Gaming Classic channel. Don't mess around.
I'm excited about it. No, these first two bringing out the heat. Let's see who stuck out. So of course Shaq stuck out because it was like, oh, I'm talking to Shaq. This is so cool. And I'm beginning to talk to Shaq about NBA Jam, which is even cooler.
So do you still have Shaq's phone number, by the way, or no?
It was an unknown caller when I answered it that fateful day, unfortunately.
You wanted it to.
I never had his number. Oh, I was hoping. He's like, it was a direct line. Yeah.
Oh, man. I got Shaq's number now on my phone.
Check right here. Yeah. But interviews that stood out. Let's see. So I've got a few that come to mind besides Shaq. George Clinton was one of them. I got to talk to P-Funk himself for the book, which was crazy. I did not think I was going to get George Clinton. Yeah, I reached out to him and I was like,
did you get Bill Clinton?
I did not try Bill Clinton, but this was around the time when Hillary was starting her campaign, and I was like, what if I ask her, because she was an NBA Jam also,
right?
What if I ask her for an interview because she's doing all these interviews? And then I was like, I don't know, it seems kind of weird. Like, she's talking about these real deal political issues and,
dude, it could have had
country and all this stuff. But yeah, so
she could have got this viewer segment on lockdown, Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But let's see. So George Clinton was definitely one that stuck out. George was super cool. I mean, classic songs from his library. I mean, such a talented guy. And it was so exciting that he gave me some time. So yeah, what I really enjoyed was how blunt he was. So I asked him, where were you in 1993 when NBA Jam first came out, or 94? He was a secret character, and I think he was one of the earliest versions of either NBA Jam or Tournament Edition. I think it was a Super Nintendo version. Anyways, I said, yeah, where were you at that time when NBA Jam came out? And he said, at that time, I was a crackhead. And I was like, wow, whoa, very blunt. But that's what I really appreciated about him, though. It was like, wow, we're going right in the deep end.
Things I don't have.
Interesting, yeah.
Things I do not have images for in this stream. I do not have an image.
Right, yeah. You have to go to the real Google deep dive for that, yeah. So then the conversation turned into the fact that he never got paid for appearing in NBA Jam, and neither did DJ Jazzy Jeff.
None of those guys did,
which is one of those.
None of those guys.
None of them, yeah.
I mean, you know much more about this, but I mean, I feel like by and large was some of the downfall with Midway and some of these games, right? I mean, eventually it was like people wanted to get paid, millions and millions of dollars to license their names and likenesses, right? And it wasn't a reality that that these companies could keep bankrolling these guys,
Definitely, yeah. And it was also the Wild West back then, just
right.
To have yourself in a video game was such a big deal.
Cool.
I mean, nowadays it seems so distant. Like, creative players, you can find that in every other game nowadays. But back in the 90s, if you had yourself in a game in any form, that's just incredible. So DJ Jazz Jeff was super psyched to be there.
Right. Like everybody, there's, I'm sure, like they talk about all the lore, like Shaq and how he would travel around, you traveled around with the game and how all these guys wanted to be in the game and called Termel to be in the game. I mean, there's that whole story too. I mean, right? I mean, am I getting that kind of right? I know a little bit on the outside, some of the stuff, but I'm not sure if you can share more of the details there. Maybe some people aren't familiar with it.
Yeah. So there's a famous story out there that when Shaq was on the road with the Orlando Magic in the early 90s, what he would do is he was such a big NBA Jam fan is that he would have an NBA Jam machine taken from one destination to the other by the team. So the team would take an arcade cabinet from one place to the other. So I read about this. It was in an ESPN article from this great writer named John Robinson. And I was like, this is a great fact. Like when I ask him about it, when I get him on the phone, I absolutely have to ask him about this. Like, what's the story with this? So when I finally did get him on the phone, I was like, so we've heard about this arcade cabinet that you should take around from place to place. He's like, no, I didn't do that. That would be too much. And I was like, what? No, that isn't true. So what I think happened is that there was some sort of miscommunication. It was not true, sadly.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
I mentioned it in the book. So
Oh,
I was so disappointed. I was bummed out. I was like, it's not true. I hope it's true. Yeah.
But I mean, that's part of your job, I feel like, is to do that research. Because I was under the impression I always had the visual of, Shaq like loading up this cabinet on their airplane, like taking it all across the US and taking it to their hotel.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I had the same kind of thing. So what I think happened was that, so I have to go back to the original article that talked about it or where it originally came from. But I think what happened was that he said that he had an arcade game at home, which is true. He had an NBA Jam machine at home. But then he used to take NBA Jam on the road. And I think NBA Jam on the road was mixed up with an arcade cabinet on the road. But there is still an amazing story, though. So, yeah, so not to fear. So back in the early 90s, when you've got the classic Orlando Magic squad of Shaq, Penny Hardaway, Scott Skiles, Nick Anderson, Dennis Scott, like one of the classic teams of that time period, what they would do is when they get off the bus in this is like 1994, somebody would say, sounds like it was often Shaq, say, NBA Jam tournament in my room at 10, be there, be square. And then everybody would come up to his hotel room where they would all meet in one place. They'd set up NBA Jam and play it for a long time. And there would be, these are men with some money. So there would be some money exchange over NBA Jam games back in the day. So yeah, and Shaq gave me this amazing visual. He replaced that image of the arcade cabinet on the road with this amazing visual of the classic Orlando Magic squad hanging out, playing NBA Jam on Sega Genesis, trading money, probably getting drunk, having a great time. When they were some of the most famous people in the league. I mean, Shaq was one of the most, I would say he would be one of the most famous people in the world.
God. Yeah, at that time, especially.
Especially the early 90s.
Like in a Holiday Inn, like Queen mattress with a bunch of guys like throwing money down. Like, hey, move over.
yeah, that's what they did. That's what they did. Yeah. So I really love that visual. So I was so psyched. I was like, okay, you took away the arcade cabinet story, but at least you replaced it with this story. So I'll get into that a little bit more.
But so I have to ask a question too, to kind of follow up on that and where we start in some of these, like the interviews, because it's really interesting. I feel like the interviews are the most interesting piece here too, or one of the most interesting pieces. But like, honestly, like how, like you said, you did a pitch for this book and you obviously have credibility at that time, and you're doing your research, you've got a publisher and backing, but how do you get in touch with, like you're saying, like George Clinton and DJ Jazzy Jeff and Mark Turmel and Shaq? Like, I'm not, how does that happen? Like, is the publisher putting you in touch with people and saying, hey, our publisher is going to reach out and set up a conversation? I mean, like, because I imagine that is so hard to do, right? I mean, but again, it's like part of your due diligence that you have to do for this.
Absolutely, yeah. So one thing that I got really good at after years of doing interviews was tracking people down. So, what I would do back in the day is, by back in the day, I mean like 5, 10 years ago. I guess that's back in the day.
It's still long.
But back in the day, so yeah, it's been a minute. So what I would do is I would pitch. So, if you open up, for example, I did this for the Cleveland Scene, I think too. You open up the Cleveland Scene and you see a preview of an upcoming show, like a concert or wrestling show or something like that. I'd be the guy that would be writing that story. So I did things similar to that for papers all over the country. And that meant that I had to pitch stuff all the time on my own. And then when I pitched it and they said, yeah, sure, I'll buy a story about whomever, I would then have to find them. So I'm really good at tracking people down. But yeah, just to give you an idea of how I found some of these people, lots and lots of Googling, because you just have to, what's amazing is there's so much incredible information out there. You just have to know what to look for and where to find it.
Right.
So a lot of the times I went to Facebook pages, I looked for managers, I looked for agents. Sometimes I would stumble across an email address. Once in a blue moon, somebody would put me in touch with somebody else. But I'm really proud to say that my publisher didn't arrange a single interview for the book for me.
That's
It's
awesome.
all myself.
Good
Yeah. So yeah, no. And it was really cool being able to have that. Yeah.
I mean, that is nothing to be, nothing to scoff at. I mean, 68 interviews, and those names that you're throwing out there, even just a handful. I mean, that's no joke. I mean, sure, getting even in touch with Turmel right now is not easy, and especially too, since all this stuff has, is popular again, right? I mean, retro is cool, and that's why we're here. But we've always been fanboys of this stuff, but it's seen a huge resurgence. So I imagine he, to your credit, he might get stuff like that all the time, right? So it depends on if you're the guy who's going to pick up the phone and take a call for, right?
Definitely. Yeah. So I knew that one of the early things that I had to do was get Turmel's perspective.
Oh yeah.
And back when the book was in its embryonic stages, I knew no matter what, like if I didn't get any of the other team members, I absolutely had to get Turmel. So Turmel is by and far, head and shoulders above everybody else, the main character of the book. So, everything ultimately comes back to Turmel. So I ended up doing 10 interviews with him. So Turmel and I got to know each other pretty well, or at least I got to know him pretty well.
You sent him a Christmas card or no?
No, but I did send him a happy birthday text. And what's amazing is, so I have a daughter, and she was born on Mark Turmel's birthday, which is just incredible.
Her middle name is Turmel.
Oh my God, that was so cool.
You don't have to say yes.
Yes, of course, it's Turmel. Of course it is. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, it's cool. Chocolate, actually.
But I mean, honestly, like these guys that are legends, at Midway. Like I've got this image I'll pop up here too. I mean, at Midway at the time, I mean, these are the guys that are doing it all. That if you're our age, you grew up with these titles and you saw them at arcades. It's all you and your buddies talked about. I mean, and they're responsible for all the titles that we still know to this day. So, I mean, it's more than just even NBA Jam. Like Midway, again, I'm sure you go into this in a lot in your book. It's just responsible for so much culture that we're all fans of. It's just awesome.
Absolutely. That was, for me personally. So just to give you an idea of my background, I'm not sure if you know this about me, but my very first ever writing gig, first ever, was for a Mortal Kombat website. So this was when I was so maybe 12 or 13 is when I started. But like that was way back when I was like, I knew I wanted to do some kind of writing. And it was the Mortal Kombat site. So of course I recognized some of these names. And it was so exciting being like, oh my God, I'm going to call up Mark Turmel. I'm going to call up Sal DeVita, and these other people I got to talk to. Rather, in this case, I didn't do a phone interview, but an email interview with John Tobias. So, I mean, I got all these different folks. Midway was so special. I mean, Midway had just such an energy to it. It was really such like a creatively fertile period in terms of the arcade scene. I mean, those games you pulled up are just classics. And I knew when I was writing the book, I had to touch on each of those. So each of those makes an appearance in the book someplace, somewhere. Some longer than others, but the entire Midway crew, like the OG Midway crew, I absolutely had to get. So I probably got maybe 10, 15 of those people, which was a big part of where a lot of the background comes
And then one of the guys too, again, I honestly don't know the answer to this question, but Josh Sui, I never know how to pronounce it, but he just did that.
Yeah.
Wait, sorry, because he was a developer there too. But is he the same Josh right now that has the Insert Coin documentary that was getting released? That's the same. I figure it's not a coincidence. It's got to be the same guy, right? That
Yep. Yeah, the one and only. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And yeah, no, I'm a big fan of a project. It hasn't come out yet, but I'm a big fan of everything that's seen so far. Yeah. And what's funny is I backed his project before I actually started mine.
Oh, no way.
So it's kind of funny how it all turned out. Yeah, no, that looks awesome. It's called
Insert Coin. They were supposed to show it at Cleveland International Film Festival, but obviously with what's going on, it got canceled. So
yeah, that was a bummer. I was going to come out for that too.
Did he reach out to you at all for any of your content or anything that you were doing as part of that to say like, hey, what have you found any information? I know he worked there, so he probably knows a lot, but I'm sure there were still some things like you might have known, right? I mean, he didn't do probably 68 interviews. Maybe he did. I don't know.
Yeah. So it was actually the other way around at first. So I got in touch with him real early on to get an idea of his perspective and see, if he could fill in any gaps. So he and I have kept in touch, though. It's mostly been me getting in touch with him to say like, okay, do you have this photo for this thing that I'm working on? Or, can you, provide this bit of information? So I'm not super close with him. I'd say I spend way more time with the other developers than him, but he's a quality dude. And yeah, that project looks fantastic. So I have been in touch with him though. And we're actually going to be doing something together, hopefully at a panel sometime soon.
Oh, that'd be cool. I mean, obviously you go into a lot of detail in the book, and then he's doing his whole documentary about Midway, and he was there. So again, like there's a huge, I think people want to see this stuff. I think his Kickstarter raised like close to $100,000 for that documentary. It just looks awesome. And I actually had it queued up to go buy tickets at the Cleveland International Film Festival, registered. I'm like, then it gets canceled. Like, such a bust. So
I was so bummed out. I was going to come out for that too. Yeah. He was like, yeah, I'm doing this thing in Cleveland. I was like, absolutely. Yeah. I was talking to my buddy about it. And then coronavirus started, and it's like, okay, well, I guess we won't do anything now. We'll just all stare at our computers and stay at home.
Yeah, we can all do this. But so question, I guess, back on some of your research or the book. Kevin had that question asked earlier about some of these interviews. Was there anything? I'm a huge history buff. Love this stuff. Actually, I have my bachelor's in history, so I can't wait to start digging in on this stuff. But was there anything that similar, maybe that Shaq story, but when you were doing your research, you're like, oh my gosh, like I never knew this. This is going to be a great story. Was there any piece or part of the book that you really, you developed that connection with and you were super excited to write it down, and you can't put it down, you want to get in there? Is there any particular part of the book that you just love?
Definitely. So there's one part. So of course I'm proud of it overall, and each chapter has its highlights, but the story that I'm personally most fond of as a fan is there's a story in chapter 6, which is all about these two guys who wrote the first NBA Jam strategy guide, or at least they're the ones who really fleshed it out and really developed it. Their names are Randolph Vance and Greg Henderson. And I found out about Randolph working on this guide through, I probably went to GameFAQs and looked over there and saw, okay, I saw his name on it. Yeah. I was like, oh boy, his name's on it. So I got to track down this guy and be like, is this, let me see if I can find the right Randolph, from the days, see if he has any good stories. And he's one of my very favorite finds because he's somebody whose story has never been documented. Mark Turmel's story, and then some of these other ones over here, you might see other places, but his story wasn't one that was any place. So just to give you a little bit of a preview of it. So Greg and Randolph, back in '93, they were buddies going to the University of Kentucky. And what they would do is they spend all their time at the arcade. And then one day this new game came in, NBA Jam. And then this was the big thing in the arcade, and they got really into it. They started working on the strategy guide. And then they saw somebody's name on the screen. Actually, they might have seen the name on the screen before they started working the guide, but they saw somebody's name on the screen during, was it an attract mode or what was it? But they somehow found out about Turmel. Oh, here's what it was. Somebody was playing as Mark Turmel's secret character. Okay. And then Randolph was like, Turmel isn't any kind of character, any NBA player I've ever heard of. Like, who's Turmel? So somebody's like, yeah, he's the secret code. Yeah. So what Randolph and Greg did was they found a phone book, a Chicago phone book, an Illinois phone book, and went through it and called Trammell at his home phone number. And we're like, are you the same Mark Trammell that developed NBA Jam? And yeah, and at that point, NBA Jam was really starting to take off. And actually, NBA Jam had probably taken off at that point. So Mark, at first, he was really miffed about it. He's like, why are you calling me at home? Don't do that. But yes, I'll help you out. I mean, he totally got it. Mark Trammell is a big game fan, too. So then they started this amazing.
Hang on a second. She's got the phone on the wall like we used to have.
Yes.
Hold on, let me get Mark.
Right, exactly. Yeah. No, it was very much like that. And yeah, so they kept in touch with Mark, and they fleshed out the strategy guide. So it's this really incredible story of these friends who bond over this passion for the game. I mean, they already had that bond, but this takes it to a next level. And the first part of the chapter is them, playing the game and getting into it, and then connecting with Trammell. And the second part is them actually going over to Midway in late 1983 and visiting the factory.
Guys that just did this Game Facts.
Exactly. Yeah. And just because Trammell, one thing led to another. Trammell started keeping in touch with them and being their source for stuff. And then they said, can we come visit you in Chicago? And Trammell said, all right. So they got in their buddy's car and they go over 6 hours from Louisville to Chicago. They go over there and then they spend the night. They play the Star Trek Next Generation pinball game, which hasn't come out. So somebody, I think it was Sal DeVita, said as they were playing the game, he says, don't hit that target, or otherwise the machine will break. It's not coded to accept that target just yet. I mean, that's how much in beta that stuff was. And it was just these incredible stories of like seeing what Midway was like when Midway was at its peak. I mean, we're fans of it. We're talking about it years removed from the fact, but to be there as things are happening, to meet these people, to see that world as arcades are at their height was super cool. And their story really made me so proud. Yeah.
I'm
amazing.
I want to read all of that. That's
no. It was super cool, and as a fan, it's like fantasy fulfillment for me because, of course, I would have loved to be there back in the day, hanging out with the Mortal Kombat guys, or hanging out with the NBA Jam guys.
Well, because you remember those game backs for like when we were kids, like they were just like the text-based things, and the guys would make the thing at the top of probably the NBA Jam logo, and then you have to scroll down to find character, Hardway, Shaq. You have to scroll down to find all the stats. I'm visually seeing this and imagine these guys just pouring a labor of love into writing this text-based document and putting on Game Facts.
Incredible. Yeah, and they would so what they would do is they were students at the University of Kentucky, and what they would do is they'd work on the guide, and then they would print out the guide using the university printers in the computer lab. And the people in the computer lab were like, what is this? Is this for school? And they were like, it's a research project. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
But the people in the computer lab knew these guys were up to something that was definitely not university material.
Like,
but that's what they did. I mean,
big research. That's cool.
It's super cool. Yeah. And they would print out this guide and sell it for $2 at the arcade. The arcade owner ended up buying some off of them, and then they'd sell it for $2. It was so cool. I mean, this is amazing, and that to me is like the real culture of the game, is when you get past like, okay, here's just some like broad strokes of how much money it made or how many machines it made. More like specific,
the lore of it. But that's what I'm saying. Like, I imagine there has to be so many other cool interviews like that in the book. I mean, people arguably know more than we did 5 or 10 years ago, and thanks to you too, bringing out these kind of cool stories. I mean, this is super fun. Like I said, I just ordered my book. I'm pumped for it to get here. So again, check that book out on Amazon.
Thank you for supporting, man. I appreciate that.
Of course, I can't wait to read it. It's like super pumped. I was actually sad I think I was so busy with the show last year, like being in the first year. I'm like, how did I not get a copy of this?
Yeah. We spent like, I think probably combined like 10 minutes together talking to each other. Actually, probably less than 10, probably like 5. Dude. But of course, I mean, you got so much stuff to do. So yeah, I didn't mind, of course.
I was just glad to have you there. It was a mess just doing this thing and running around like a chicken with my head cut off, but it was fun.
Yeah.
So I do have to ask too, a little, it's related, I think we'll say it's related here. But I mentioned a couple times, obviously the resurgence of retro. And even like we were talking about, Arcade One Up, right? Did their NBA Jam machine, their cabinet. Any thought? Like, what? I'd be curious to kind of get. You're the guy that kind of knows it all, or even if like, I can't obviously ask Trammell or get his thoughts or some of these guys, but what would be your impression, or what do you think? What are your thoughts on it first, and then what do you think some of these guys would say about that type of stuff now going on, right?
Yeah. So I know a lot of those guys at Midway are really proud of it. For some it was really just like this such high benchmark that they know that their other games won't ever meet, because you don't make an NBA Jam every day or every year or every 10 years. NBA Jam was very special. So I imagine a lot of them are super jazzed about it. I wouldn't say super jazzed about it in the way that we as fans are, like, oh my God, it's finally here, but they're more like, yeah, it's staying alive. What's one of the most amazing things about NBA Jam is that there's so much positivity associated with it. Because you can go and like talk about other subjects. Like, even I'm a huge Mortal Kombat fan, but if you're doing a Mortal Kombat book, you've got to talk about the violence aspect, or you've got to talk about Street Fighter comparisons, maybe, or something else. Like, maybe something that isn't like 100% flattering. But with NBA Jam, what's amazing is that it's always associated with so many positive memories that everybody's willing to talk about it. So as I got to catch up with those developers, they loved reminiscing. So I imagine they'd be really psyched about this thing existing.
Well, and also the community. I mean, we do what I think is honestly the largest NBA Jam tournament, if not one. And there was that film crew that came from Netflix. I still want to see whatever documentary they're working on. Hopefully I can get an update from them. But I mean, like, we put on a pretty cool NBA Jam tournament. And to your point, like, it's just fun, right? I mean, like, these guys that come out and do this stuff, just like we do the Tecmo Super Bowl stuff, like, it's fun, and I know some of these other leagues, I'm not trying to downplay the Smash or Mortal Kombats or anything, but like NBA Jam, to your point, like, they're just like, there's nothing that you can get angry about with it. Yeah, you miss some shots or whatever, but it's like, that's what this game is. Like, what you're kind of getting into when you sign up to play it,
Absolutely, yeah. And NBA Jam holds up so much. That's one of the things that I'm really hardened about, is that, when I first started working on the book, I really started to kind of critically think about NBA Jam to some degree, to be like, okay, if I'm going to write the book, I want to try to examine it from as many angles as I can and see, like, is NBA Jam still a good game? And NBA Jam is one of those games that still is, totally is. It still moves so fast. It's so addictive and so fun and so satisfying when you nail the 3-pointer. It feels so good to hear Boom Shakalaka.
Right.
I mean, it's such like a sensory sensory experience. It's so satisfying. So yeah. I mean, I think it's a great game, and it still really holds up. Which you can say for every game you loved when you were a kid.
Well, and that's the thing too. I feel like that era with Midway had a lot of flash in the pan moments, like Smash TV and Revolution X and NBA Jam, of course, because, like, I know they've tried to do stuff with NBA Jam, like on Xbox or whatever, the modern stuff, where they try to bring up the speed and enhance the graphics, and it's like, it's just not, like, that's not what the game needs. The game doesn't, and I just heard yesterday, they're gonna, Disney's gonna remake Home Alone. It's like, we don't need that. Like, Home Alone, you can't touch some of this stuff. Like, you can't touch NBA Jam. Like, it can't be done again, in my opinion, at least. I feel like it's perfect the way it is, right? I mean,
absolutely. I see what you mean. 100%. Yeah. It's one of those things where I feel like if you make NBA Jam again, you have to make a different kind of game. As in, you have to have something that's NBA Jam in spirit, but you have to throw on a whole bunch of new things if you're going to try to do it.
Right.
But I mean, truly, yeah, you'll never be able to capture that success. And there's nothing, I mean, I can't imagine a world in which you're going to have another NBA Jam ever come out, or even really, I mean, this happens oftentimes with basketball games overall, for them to catch fire the way like NBA Jam or I didn't even think I was doing it until I said it. I was like,
I got you. I'm trying to sneak it in there.
Yeah. But yeah.
Arch Rivals, Kevin's pointing out, was violent. Remember Arch Rivals? I mean, that's what we had. We had what did we have? We had Arch Rivals. What was the other one? I'm mind blanking. Because what other games do we have? We had basketball games. We had Arch Rivals. We had
basketball, arcade basketball games from back in the day. Double Dribble.
That's the one.
Double Dribble. There was a Run and Gun, which came out just after NBA Jam, which actually had Mark Trammell kind of scared for 5 minutes that Run and Gun might beat NBA Jam in the arcade.
The Shaq one? Didn't Shaq have his own game?
Shaq did not have his own game.
Did Barkley have one? Barkley
had Shut Up and Jam. That was home console. Yeah. But I mean, there's so many interesting games from back then. There's like a Bill Laimbeer game. Bill Laimbeer's Combat Basketball.
That's right.
Jordan
Bird on NES. Yeah.
There's a Pat Riley's basketball, which I think I mentioned in the book too. Like Coach Pat Riley got his game.
That's
Like
fun.
back in the day when they're doing licensed games, everybody would get one. There was
Wait,
David Ross.
Tecmo basketball. There was Tecmo basketball. Was that one you mentioned?
Yeah, that's one that actually what now that I'm thinking about it. Wow, I don't mention Tecmo basketball. I don't think I even mentioned Tecmo Bowl anyhow.
Well, Tecmo basketball, only thing I remember is, it's got those cutscenes, right? I mean, because, it had the cutscenes. It was kind of cool because you'd see the guy dunk the ball. It's like, oh, this is awesome. Like,
yeah, wow, look what they're doing. It's amazing. Yeah.
Port of arch rivals, like that's terrible. So
right. Yeah. Or Double Dribble, where they had the first national anthem in a video game, I think.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Classic stuff. But it's so cool.
It's fun.
I love going through the whole history too, though. Yeah. And what's amazing is that you talk about one game, then you talk about another, and then a third and a fourth. And I went down those rabbit holes for 4 years right there. Like I was just going through and like looking through all these old games. So
you're like, wait, I can't talk about arch rivals too much. Wait, I can't talk about Revolution X. Wait, I can't talk about because I imagine it's like you're doing all this research. You're like, oh gosh, I've done 68 interviews. Like, how am I going to thin some of this content out now?
Oh, definitely. So it is actually it's the longest book in Boss Fight's entire series.
Is it really?
Yeah. So, but there is an arch rival section. It is the longest book. Yeah, it's
That's cool.
And it was one of those things that they were really kind to bet on me. Like I was like, look, I know this book is gonna be really good, and at this point, whatever we were in the process, I was like, I don't think we need to cut anything else. I think everything else that's left in there is relevant to the story of NBA Jam. And my publishers were great. I remember having so much anxiety about like I did 68 interviews, I did all this stuff, I have to cut stuff. And of course, some stuff got cut. Realistically, there's no room for 68 interviews in a book of any length for people to actually read it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not going to read it. So you got to get it down to the good stuff. But even getting it down to the good stuff, I had so much good stuff. So I did actually have an arch rival section. I do have an arch rival section.
Do you really? Oh, that's cool.
Cool. I do. So a few pages about that. Oh. Yeah. Which was also built off of original interviews with the creators of Arch Rivals, who are also fascinating dudes. They worked on Xenophobe and Rampage and General Chaos.
Oh my gosh, Xenophobe! Wow.
Yeah, deep cuts.
That is wild.
Yeah.
But there any? So you're talking about Boss Fight Books, too. Your publisher. Any other? I know they put out a lot of great content about other games. Like authors like you have put out there. Are there any ones that kind of stand out? Some reads that you'd have? Do you recommend to anybody watching this to say like, hey, you got to check out this, right? Check out my book, but then also check out this read. Any other good stuff?
Definitely. Yeah. So my personal favorite from the series is the only other arcade game, which was Galaga by Michael Kimball, and I think that was in the first season. So Boss Fight, what they do is they do different seasons. So right now they just recently announced season 5, which has Majora's Mask in there. It's got Resident Evil in there. It's got Red Dead Redemption. It's got a couple of other great games in there. But in terms of stuff that's come before, I love the Galaga one. And the Galaga one was really got me interested in the concept because I'm a huge arcade game fan. Because arcade games maybe it's weird, maybe it's not. Oh, we're all arcade game fans over here, but arcades were like in a different level to me. You know what I mean? Like anybody can have a home console and have access to home console theoretically, but arcades are so special. Like you have to go out there, you have to have this. There's just a different world. Every machine is different. So I was a huge arcade games fan. So I was like, oh, let me check out this Galaga one, and it's super fun. Well, parts of it are fun, parts of it are pretty dark. It's very different from mine. It's more memoir based, but it starts off with just an absolute banger of an anecdote. Can I share the anecdote from the beginning of this Galaga book?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So back in the late 80s, I'm not sure if it was late 80s, maybe mid 80s, but Alec Baldwin, the great actor, he did a lot of cocaine. So what he would do is, as he was coming down in the mornings, he would play Galaga to chill out. So what he would do is there was some like a bar or something. Yeah,
Clinton both had Galaga machines. Is what you've just revealed. You heard it here first.
Yeah. But what they would do is so Alec Baldwin would like bang on the door early in the morning, and they let him in, and he'd be on his come down and he'd play Galaga for hours.
This is at an arcade?
This was actually, it was either I'm not entirely sure. I got to check the book again. It was either a restaurant or it was like a little arcade, something like that.
Because a lot of people didn't own no one owned cabinets back then. Like that
right.
No one owned
Right.
like
This was
no one
in
had
a
a
cabinet.
Popeye machine or something in their basement. No one did that, so you had to go somewhere.
Oh yeah. No. He went someplace. Yeah, but he would go there day after day on his come down to play Galaga, which was such an incredible visual, and that's how the book starts. So I mean, that image is always gonna be burned into my head of
I'm
like
gonna check that out.
Yeah, just looking at banging on the door like, let me in. I'm I got to play some Galaga to cool off over here, guys.
Man,
so that's how he would spend his time. Yeah.
Let's try to get Alec Baldwin on this show here. Maybe we can tell us.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Yeah.
He's like, hey,
Galaga days.
We're a big Galaga fan here at Cleveland Gaming Classic. We got a Galaga machine, but hey, I got 2 kids, so I don't want any trouble. Don't bring.
That's the thing. I was like, should I go for the story? But I was like, it's such an amazing visual. I have to put it out there in the universe. The more people know about it, I mean, I was just amazed this as a story that existed. But that's how the Galaga book starts. Again, very different from my book, but I would definitely recommend it.
That's super cool. This has been great. If you guys are just joining us, again, we've got Reyan Ali here live with us. He's coming from Columbus, Ohio. I'm doing a time check here too. We're already like 50 minutes into this thing. This is how these things happen. We start talking about like fun stuff. I mean, NBA Jam. So like how our show even got its start. Like we originally were Tecmo Super Bowl, and huge Tecmo Super Bowl fan. The whole thing started on my basement. All these guys that are in the stream and have been huge fans coming all over the place. And then we added NBA Jam because I'm like, we have to add NBA Jam, so we turned it into Tecmo Jam, and then last year we turned it into Cleveland Gaming Classic. But it's like so awesome. I'm going with this rant. This is what often happens to me. I just kind of go on a rant, but
no, go for it.
Like NBA Jam is like one of those games, right? Like Tecmo, NBA Jam, they like Mortal Kombat, like those games defined generations of kids and gamers and culture, right? I mean, you can't deny that. And I think that's so awesome why, you dedicated, going back to what we were talking about earlier, like 68 interviews. Like, that's no joke, right? I mean, think about even setting up all those interviews, the hours putting into that, logging that.
Every single one of them. I transcribed every single one of them and listened to each one of them twice.
And you don't do that. And you don't do that without passion, right? Like all these guys and everybody watching and yourself. I mean, 5 years pouring into this thing, and where I'm going is I love it. And
I appreciate it. Thank you.
I mean,
it's so worth it. Yeah,
dude, it's so cool. It's so cool. And even like, the shirt you've got on from Homage, like when they started that line, I was like, thank you. Like, like this is cool. Like this is great to see this stuff. So,
I guess such a great community out there, though.
I guess what I'm going is thanks for everything you did with this book. Honestly, for I think a lot of fans out there, and again, hopefully people on the stream. Like seriously, I don't say this to plug it selfishly or in your benefit or anything, but I mean honestly, like that's super cool, and people should want to check it out. So please do.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, no, it's one of those things. Like when it was like. When I was working on it, I knew that the fan in me would want to make sure that it was as thorough as possible, because I knew that fan perspective, of course, too, of like, you're going to read a book about one of your favorite games and you're like, oh, they got that fact wrong, or they didn't talk to this person, they left over that detail. Yeah. That was very much in the back of my mind.
And that's what I'm saying. People want to know, like, you didn't interview so-and-so. And, like.
I tried everybody I could. I tried some people I didn't get. I tried Scottie Pippen. I heard back from his management, no go. I tried Sean Kemp. I tried Muggsy Bogues. I tried so many people. Yeah. I tried so many people that maybe, you never know. My goal is for someday for there to be an NBA Jam tournament edition of the book. And maybe at that point I could, I'll have enough value that I can get somebody else. I mean, I tried so many people that are, for example, Jimmy Fallon, he's a huge NBA Jam fan.
Really?
Huge NBA Jam fan. Yeah. He's actually had it on a show. He's at I'm certain he's a fan of the OG version, but he's had the 2010 version on his show a couple of times. One time he and Shaq, I think they played some kind of game where Shaq lost and Shaq had to walk around in pink panties or something like that. It was it was great. And yeah, he even had it. He haven't had it on his show as recently as like a couple of years ago, which is like to say NBA Jam, the EA version came out, 2010, 2011, and he had Russell Westbrook come on his show and play it in 2018 or so. And you have to be a big NBA Jam fan if you're not like. There's no money changing hands
No,
or anything.
yeah, no, he's
Yeah,
not getting any kickbacks from Midway now, you know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So, but no, it's so worth it. And I mean, that's one of those things where it's like for NBA Jam, no doubt in my mind that it's all worth it because the story I knew was there and the people were there. And that was one of the big things for me. It was like, okay, if I get to do this and I get all this access, I really have to not screw it up. I have to try to get as much as I can. So I want to talk to the fans, the people in the middle, the designers, you know, the people at the top, celebrities, other people from Acclaim and Midway, whomever I could.
Yeah, it's awesome. So a couple, if you do want to follow what Reyan is doing, best place to do it is on Twitter. The guy is a monster on Twitter. I feel like that's fair to say. This guy, how many followers do you have on Twitter now? It's like 10 million or something, or what?
10 million. Oh God, I would love it. It was 10 million. Oh, are you kidding me? I just cracked 10,000 recently, which was
nice.
huge.
That's huge.
Yeah. So now I'm at 10.6K. It's crazy how
like
take off.
10.6. Yeah. 10,621 followers. You know, no big deal. No one's counting. No, but he honestly puts out super cool content on Twitter. Like I said at the start of this interview, it's how I got in touch with Reyan. And if you're looking for fun content, seriously check him out. It's super fun. So
yeah, well, I appreciate it. Yeah, always going for the deep cuts because as fans of stuff like this, I want to see the sketches that John Tobias had from back in the day of Mortal Kombat characters that look different, or I want to see NBA Jam stuff you haven't seen or Capcom stuff. So I go deep into stuff like that. So if you're into old arcade culture and old retro video game culture, I've got a ton of cool stuff on there.
Cool. I love it. All right, so we are almost at the hour, but we can't let you go because if we did, we'd be breaking tradition here. We have a tradition we keep on the show where we do a lightning round, and being as being as a big budget show as we are, we've got producers and marketing directors and camera crews and everything. But one of the things,
I can see the makeup lady back there.
Correct, right? Yeah, we got her. They're over there in the corner, right? So.
Catering. She's a catering.
Correct, catering. Yeah, I only eat green M&Ms. So I toss out all the other ones. But so the guest on the show, I'm going to take off this. I got to bring this back up. So the guest on the show has to make the lightning round sound effect. So, there's a lightning round sound effect. So when you're ready, lightning round sound effect, and we'll get started. You ready? 3, 2, 1.
Yes.
What was it?
Nope.
Yes.
What's the right line? It was the classic intro. Yes.
No,
okay. All right.
Like a lightning bolt or thunder.
Like
that. Like a.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, we'll try again. Hold on. Wait.
All right. Okay.
Wait for it.
I thought I was allowed to do an NBA Jam.
Oh, no. Come on. Let's get things right. All right. Whenever you're ready.
Okay,
Whenever you're ready. Whenever you're ready, go for it.
Okay. Boom.
Shakalaka. We'll take it. All right.
That was the other direction I was going, but I was like, I got to go with the yes. All right. Okay.
We'll go for it. So there's a boom shakalaka. I had him typed in ahead of time. So, all right. So lightning round. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Okay. Get situated here.
Wow.
All right.
It's on. I'm feeling it.
All right. Favorite NBA Jam team?
Seattle Supersonics.
Favorite video game besides NBA Jam?
Tony Hawk's Pro Skater.
1, 2, 3. Just.
I mean, I love 1 through 3, but let me give 1 the nod.
I feel like 1 and 2 are solid. All right. Best Tim Kitzrow line.
Oh God, I really love. Is it the shoes?
Is it the shoes? I love that one.
I love that one. But there's so many good ones. Swish is another classic one. When you just nail that, swish. Oh, it's so poetic. So yeah, I love yes, which I was trying to do and didn't do very. I love you. Yeah.
What are you listening to right now?
Man, oh gosh, I've got a kid, so I've been listening to lots of Sesame Street. But besides Sesame Street, man, all right. God, I'm really tempted to check my phone. You know what I listened to this morning? I listened to the Scarface theme. I was on a walk and I listened to the Scarface theme. So yeah, let's go with the Scarface theme.
Scarface theme. And then so before the show, you showed me a little gem you have. Do you have that gem still? You want to show people? You're not going to see.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh wait, the camera, the other.
The tape that you had. You have a cassette tape?
Oh.
Wasn't it? Yes, I said
Yeah.
I said
I have
cassette.
another gem. Okay.
Look at
Yeah.
So what is this?
So this is a tape of instrumentals by this Austin-based artist named Boom Baptist. You can check him out on Bandcamp. So just look up Boom Space Baptist, like John the Baptist. And he has this amazing tape that's all, I'm not sure if he's still making the tapes, but he definitely has vinyl records, which is all based on NBA Jam's art. And he has, he's got Tim Kitzrow samples in there. It's super cool stuff.
Tape made at like,
yeah.
Talk about like trying to find people to do interviews. I imagine it's harder to find a person to actually production tape, cassette tape. Like, what do you want?
There's probably one factory in Rochester, New York somewhere that's still making tapes, and he's like, got to get to Rochester. But no, definitely would check it out. Yeah, he's a super cool dude, and he loves the NBA Jam aesthetic. I mean, his whole aesthetic nowadays has been about NBA Jam in terms of the records he makes, in terms of the cassettes. He has this cool little card he's made that looks like an early '90s NBA card. To go with the project. So yeah, definitely check that out. Can I bust out the other thing that we're talking about?
And also shout out to Rochester, New York, where you're known for your tapes.
There we go. So yeah,
the topper. It's the topper.
Yes. Yeah, this is what I was talking. You're talking about. I don't have a tea cabinet, sadly. Maybe someday. But
out your kids' college fund, no big deal.
Yeah, might as well. Look, it's worth it. It's worth it. It's NBA Jam.
It's an inheritance for him one day, or her one day.
Exactly. Look, Dad wrote the NBA Jam book. Sell the NBA Jam book with the NBA Jam game. Dad, make some money back. Yeah,
sure. Come on. But favorite stadium fare or food? What's your go-to at a basketball game or game?
Man. Okay, so favorite fare. Oh, I mean, I love popcorn. I'm so basic. I love buttery popcorn and Coke. If I can just get some popcorn and Coke, I'm
popcorn and Coke. Most recent book you've read or are reading?
So actually, yesterday I read a really interesting article. This is veering off into someplace else too. Actually, no. Let me skip that. And let me jump back on over to the book. Man, I haven't finished a book in a while, but the last book I probably read was while I was working on this one, which was Masters of Doom. But yeah, it's a fantastic book. It's by this author named David Kushner. It's all about id Software and the classic days of Romero and Carmack, and all about their rise and fall of their partnership. So I got to talk to John Romero for the book, which was amazing. And after having read about him, he's a character in this book, and I love this book. It's a huge inspiration for my own. It was so cool to be able to talk to him. So anyways, Masters of Doom.
Okay, cool. Jordan versus Bird. Who you got?
Oh, Jordan, come on. I mean, look, Larry Bird is obviously a legend, but it's also Michael Jordan, who is.
Hey, listen.
Yeah,
I gotta ask.
And I was not a Jordan fan in the '90s, by the way. I was actually anti-Jordan as a kid because he always beat the teams I liked.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
All right. Does this one might be a stretch, but I figure you're the guy that would know if anyone would know. So Carrie Hoskins, does that name ring a bell? Okay.
Reader for the book. Yeah, she's awesome.
Better as an NBA Jam cheerleader or Sonya Blade?
Got to be Sonya Blade. You cannot, as much as I love NBA Jam, you're not going to mess with for me, the Sonya Blade is that one from Mortal Kombat 3 who looks like she's wearing like gym attire. I mean, the cheerleader, all that stuff is where she got her start.
So people don't know that what we're talking about is this is Carrie Hoskins, who's actually Sonya Blade in Mortal Kombat. Is that wild? Like,
it's crazy. Yeah.
This is the whole thing we're talking about though. Like at Midway, it was like, that's what we had Daniel Pacina on a month ago, and we're gonna get Rich DeVizio on. He's gonna be, he was Kano in Mortal Kombat. He's coming on.
I love Rich DeVizio.
Right. So he's coming on, I think, in August. But it's like all these guys and girls, they all knew each other, right? And it's like, hey, I know this girl, and she's in my game here. Oh, well, she could do Mortal Kombat, or she was an NBA Jam. Right. Like, why not? Isn't that just so crazy? I mean,
it's incredible. Yeah. I mean, that was one of the other highlights for me is like, so as a big Mortal Kombat fan, like I said, I get to use NBA Jam as this conduit to be like, oh, I'm calling you about NBA Jam, which of course I obviously deeply love too. And then we can talk about some Mortal Kombat stuff there as well. So Carrie actually got her start at Midway with NBA Jam. She was working at Playboy at the time. She was a model at first, and then she actually worked.
I did not know that.
Yeah, that whole story's in the book. Yeah, there's of how she got a phone call or rather somebody else in the Playboy office got a phone call, and she said, Carrie, this is some weird call. I don't know what this guy wants. You want to talk to him? And it was somebody at Midway asking for cheerleaders for this basketball game they were making. And then one thing led to another, and that's how we got the Sonya Blade, if you ask me.
Wow. Dude, it's
amazing.
I can't wait for this book. I'm excited.
Yeah.
All right, hold on. I got to get my lightning round graphic back up. It's very important. All right. It's been hot out, right? It's been hot out. What do you have your air conditioning set to?
My wife sets the air conditioning. Yeah,
I don't really. What are you setting? Oh, two-part question, lightning round. What are you setting it to, and what's your wife setting it to?
So we have a thermostat that, like, the 78, 80, like there's always this. No. There's a whole dispute over the thermostat. It's a whole thing. Then it drops down to like 60s. Let's not get into the whole thermostat thing. This is going to take me into a NBA. But I do have a sweet fan down over here in the basement.
Okay, so you got your fan, your wife got your wonky thermostat.
My fan is set to 3 at times. So yeah, my fan is, and the settings are set at 3. Yeah,
but it's been so hot here, and even in Columbus area,
burning up. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've got some flies over here for some reason. I don't know why.
Last one. Wendy's or McDonald's? You're from Columbus, so I have to ask.
Well, which of those did I have today? I think I ate some delicious Wendy's before getting on this. Yeah, on the stream. I actually did this evening. Yeah.
Did you have
I had a Dave combo. Yeah, Dave single combo with chicken nuggets with the Sawsum sauce. And yeah, it was
sauce with what sauce?
It's called Sawsum. Yeah, it's this thing that Wendy's has called Sawsum sauce. You got to try it out. I mean, it's not like the best sauce ever.
No, I always do 2 JBCs, junior bacon cheeseburgers. I would do 2 JBCs, and I usually get like the extra large fries and a Frosty. That's a little. I do the Frosty dip.
Look at that. A man of culture. I knew you were a man of culture.
Do the Frosty dip. I like that.
There you go. Yeah. But no, I did actually Wendy's today. Funny enough, like I was like, I really, I picked up Wendy's actually before sending off a bunch of autographed books. So if you can see back there, behind me, those books. I actually went to the post office. And then I directly went to Wendy's.
Nice.
So that was my day. Yeah. Well, that was my whole day. That was my evening.
Yeah, it's got like the square. That square patty. It's a solid. I feel like it's a solid version.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the quality is usually like with Wendy's. I'm not really disappointed. Yeah, and it usually does taste fresh. Compared to like fresh, be relative.
That's the bar we're setting. Yeah. It usually does taste fresh.
Look, I mean, look, it's American fast food, all right.
Exactly.
There's only you can only rise so high, but no,
I have can only go so high.
I didn't like Wendy's before, but now I like some Wendy's. So anyways, Wendy's is definitely my favorite.
I love it. Well, you've officially survived our lightning round, so
yes. After my error with the sound effect earlier, sorry about my snafu. So
you might not like that.
Well, it's pretty bad. Yeah.
You redeemed yourself with the Kerry Hoskins. If you wouldn't have come out knowing that, I mean, I would have had to kick you off the show, but you definitely redeemed yourself. But in all seriousness, this has been super fun. Thanks for coming on the show. We'll kind of wrap things up here, but if you guys do have questions for Reyan, obviously follow him, please, on Twitter. Get him to 10,262 followers tonight, maybe. But no, check his book out too, in all seriousness, on Amazon. Like I said at the very beginning, I think it's like 13 or 15 some bucks on Amazon. Super cool. I mean, we've only talked about this book for 45 minutes to an hour. I imagine there's so much more in there that we didn't want to spoil. And in all sincerity, thanks for coming on, Reyan. This has been super fun. Is there anything you want to promote or say before we kind of wrap up here?
Yeah, no, I mean, you pretty much covered it. Well, first off, I wanted to thank you personally for the opportunity of the convention last fall. And that was so much fun. And that's going to be one of those things I'll always remember. Check out the book if you're into video game history, if you're into history of basketball culture, if you're into history of the arcades. The book touches on all of those. And one of the things is I can't really do a money back guarantee. I'm not really at that level yet, but I will say that I can pretty much guarantee you will learn something from this book. If not one thing, then many things, because I really dug deep. So if you're a fan of NBA Jam, you'll absolutely leave reading this with a whole new level of knowledge, because there's so many amazing stories that I was able to find throughout making this book that I was able to share. But it's pretty cheap. 4 years and one gulp right there for $15. It's not a bad deal.
That's like you probably spent more
Yeah.
tonight on that Dave Single combo, you know?
Actually, yes. Yeah. Come to think of it,
Sad
I
reality of it all, right? I mean, it's like
it's true though. Yeah. No, come to think of it. Yeah. So my book is 15. The digital book version, I think, is like $4.99 or so. So it's like $20. And I spent 20 something for my full Wendy's meal. I had my wife. Yeah. And I had a baked potato in there too. So,
you know,
yeah.
Well, pick up his book. Before I go too, if you didn't join us at the beginning, please, if you can do me a favor and our show a favor too, share this type of content. We keep this type of stuff coming. This has been super fun to do, not only, while we've all been in our basements and locked up and everything, but please, in all seriousness, take care of each other, stay home, stay safe, stay healthy, do the right thing, wear a mask. I'll say, if it's controversial or not, I don't know, but please do the right thing, love each other and try to do the right thing for everybody out there. I know we're all passionate about everything we do and playing games, and it's what I want to do. It's what I want to do is get back into playing arcade games with you guys and seeing people and having shows and that. So please take care of each other. As always, if you have or need questions or things, wondering what's going on at the Cleveland Gaming Classic or looking for the latest information, you can always check us out again right there at gamecleveland.com or on Facebook. And again, please, make sure you give Reyan a follow on Twitter and check his book out on Amazon. So again, Reyan, thanks again, and we will see you guys later. Thanks, guys. See you, Reyan.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You got it. See you later.